All right, we are live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris, and this is my channel. We love comics. I hope you are having an awesome day. And I got back some EGS books. I actually got these back early in the week, but I had some scenarios that I had to take care of and everything. So, I'm excited to actually unbox this now. It's been a little while since I've done an EGS video, which is fine with me. To give everybody, as usual, full disclosure, I do work with both PGX and EGS. Now, by work with, I don't have employment status or anything like that, but I mean that I have deals with both of them. So I'll exclusively talk about EGS here. Tony, the owner of EGS, and shout out to him, he does watch my videos, and we do talk from time to time on the phone. He's a very nice gentleman and a pleasure to speak with, and is very knowledgeable about a lot of things, which I always appreciate. But one day he called me. We talked years back, and it just wasn't probably the right time to do it. And I don't think we even had that on the table at that point. But he said he was watching my PGX videos and my videos in general, liked the way I do business, and how I try and speak the truth to the best of my ability. And one day asked me, would I be interested in doing a deal with them like I do with PGX? And they said, you know, because they're a smaller company, they can only give 2 books. You know what, I'm not here to make millions of dollars or anything like that. So I had no problem with doing that. To me, 2 books being graded for free, other than me having to pay for shipping, you know, is better than no books being graded for free. So they will grade them for free for me. I send 2 books every month. They do the pressings and dry cleanings if necessary, signature verification if necessary, and they do add grader's notes, not onto the back of the slab, but I hope they do that one day, but they do include grader's notes on like a little index card that they put in the back of the bag of the slab. They don't put it actually in the slab. But like with PGX, I explained to them that I do not sign contracts. I do not want to get paid. I want to be able to speak my mind, and I made sure I warned him. I said, I'm a person that's not afraid to say if something's wrong. And he said, to be fair, and I'll give him credit, he said, you know, I appreciate that. So that made me want to deal with them. So whether you want to use EGS or not, or any grading company, that's up to you. I'm not here to tell you who to go with. That's why I do full disclosure. Every time I make one of these videos, I don't want to assume that everybody knows. There might be a person that's never seen my channel before that's watching for the first time. So I'm not afraid to do full disclosure on this. But I want to make sure not only am I benefiting by getting 2 books sent in for free to get graded, pressed, dry clean, signature verification, etc., etc. They benefit from hopefully getting a new customer or 2 and getting some free advertisement from it, because not only do I do the unboxing, but every time, like I do with PGX, the books I'm about to send in, I will do a video explaining the whole situation and giving my estimates of what I think the grade would be. Keep in mind, I'm not a professional grader, but I'm fairly spot on when it comes to at least mid to lower grades. Higher grade stuff I'm not always the best at, because I don't send in a lot of high grade books. Because you guys know me, I have no problem with a coverless book, and will buy it if the price is right, because it might be a book that I couldn't afford otherwise. But I wanted to make sure there's a deal for you as well, and EGS, Tony, allowed me to do not 1, but 2 different discounts for you if you want to try EGS. So if you do, if you send in 10 or more books to EGS and use the code WeLoveComicsFreePress, they will press one of the books for free. I always recommend that people indicate which book they want pressed if there's a preference. Otherwise, I'm sure they'll just pick one randomly. So I would recommend picking one if you want it to be pressed. And also, if you use the code WeLoveComics, you can get $5 off your first order. So they're giving you 2 discounts to give them a try. And like I said, they do pressings and dry cleanings in-house. They do signature verification in-house, which means that you don't have to send it to a separate place to do pressings and then send it to another place and then go to the grader, which means it could be potentially lost in the mail or damaged in the mail. It just kind of smooths things out. And I like businesses that do that, where it's one-stop shopping. It's pretty much why people go like to a place like Walmart than they will going to 500 different stores. The fact that everything's right there just makes it convenient. Now, again, it may not work for everybody. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to share my experience. If it resonates with you, awesome. If not, hey, you got to spend, well, knowing me, probably 2 hours listening to me rant on. Even though the video I did yesterday, the average viewer watched for 2.5 minutes. So most people are probably not my ultra viewers or ultra power viewers, but that's okay. So there are 2 books here. I sent these in. Now, I'm not sure which ones, because the difference with EGS with this is they don't go according to when I send them in. They'll basically just pick one of my boxes and grade them and then send them back. So they're not in a specific order like PGX does it. I don't get notifications, but I'm always, like I said, I'm always fully transparent. That will not be affecting you guys, because Tony has told me specifically when he does deals, because I'm not the only one he's done the deals with. There are other YouTube channels where they have similar, if not the exact same deals. They say basically anybody that's doing the free service is not going to get the notifications and stuff like that, which, you know, I hope they fix that, because I would like to know my books would arrive. But like I said, that's not the norm. So I want to make sure I indicate that. But again, like I said, I speak my mind, whether it's good or bad, as long as it's honest. I think that's what my viewers care about. So I'm not sure which 2 books are in here, but we are going to do a live unboxing. But before I do that, I see Tony from EGS is actually in the live chat, so welcome. Let's say hello to everybody. James Logan is here. Agu Rhythm, many of my regulars are here. Michael B is here. Jason Brazier is here. Russell Hall is here. And if you're not here, come on into the live chat. You don't have to be a subscriber to be in the live chat. I love having people have a conversation, so join in if you can. Now, before we get into the EGS, I do want to mention my live auction that I am doing this coming Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. A total of 4 books have already been sold. How is that possible? Well, I did a video, and I always do a sneak peek preview video before I do a live auction for my power viewers and ultra power viewers that watch my channel, watch my videos, so they have the opportunity to make an offer on any of the books before the auction starts. That's my way of saying thank you to those who watch all of my videos. So 4 books out of the 18 have now been officially sold. So if you want to see the video I did a couple of days ago showing the sneak preview before the auction starts, you can contact me at peacefulfeelings@yahoo.com. So the 4 books that are no longer available for sale and will not be on the auction is Blondie #1, Hulk #180, Fantastic Four #2, and Amazing Spider-Man #194. So somebody contacted me about Fantastic Four #2, which was my only copy, and I'm going to be sad to see it go, but I'm very happy to see it's going to somebody that's going to appreciate it. And another one of my 25 different Hulk 180s. That's why I don't mind selling them, even though I could hold on to them and make more money. But it's not always about money, at least with me. Now, that being said, there's nothing wrong with making money. If you can make money, God bless you, Allah bless you, you know, Smurf bless you, whatever you want to pray to. I also allow a 4-month payment plan of any books over $5.99 and up. So the person that bought the Fantastic Four #2 and the Hulk 180 is doing a 4-month payment plan. I charge no interest. And basically it's the old people like me that remember the layaway programs where they'll hold on to an item until you pay for it. And once you pay for it, it gets shipped right out. So let's get into the video. As you guys know me, if given the opportunity, I will rant, and most people will not listen, and I don't blame them. I couldn't listen to myself for 2 hours speak, so those that do, all the blessings in the world. So here is the box. As usual, it arrives safe and sound. It is not opened. I do that live. I do not know the grades. I do not want to know the grades. I like finding out live. It just makes the reaction that much better. But you guys know me at this point. I mean, as long as grades are fair, I have no problems with the grades I receive. Now, there are many channels out there that if they don't get a 9.8, I love how all of a sudden people become professional graders. And if they think every book they send is a 9.8, and God forbid one gets a 9.6 or a 9.4, or, on the other extreme, an 8.0, they'll look at the front and back of the book and say, there's no way it's not a 9.8. Well, those people should actually get jobs working at one of the grading companies and show off how talented they are. The professionals do a little bit more than looking at the front and back of the cover. Now, always keep in mind, all grading companies, and I cannot stress this enough, I've said it so many times, all grading companies make mistakes because they are run by what, ladies and gentlemen? Human beings. Human beings are fallible, which means they can make mistakes. So keep that in mind with any grading company. It's the consistency and also what they do with it and what the people do with it that matters. So far, knock on wood, EGS has been very good to me. They take a little bit longer to send back my books, but again, it's because I'm doing the deal with them that their priority is the paying customer. So I have no problems with that, and that's why I want to make sure not only do I mention the situation, but always the reason why. Many people will make claims or statements, but never give you the why something happens. And that's why many people can take things out of context, because most people never talk about the why. So to me, at least, that is of utmost importance for me. And I think, I can't speak for Tony, but I think people like Tony and maybe my viewers, for the most part, that are my regulars, appreciate that. All right, so the first thing I want to say is I love the fact that they include these dividers. You can hold up to 1, 2, 3, between like 4 or 5 in here. I'm sure I've never had, because I only get 2 books in. I'm sure they have bigger ones for, people that have larger orders. And if I'm incorrect, Tony, please let me know. You can put it in the comment section. But I like these. It keeps them stable. Now, before I pull it out, that's what he said. This is what's going to be on the side, which I see there are there. More dividers, thicker for the side so they don't move. I like those. Now, the one thing that they do, which I actually mentioned, so it shows, the owner of the company is watching the video right now. If that doesn't tell you that, yes, they are the new kids on the block, and yes, there are going to be growing pains in any business, because unless you start out with $1 billion trust fund on your business, you have to build up things, and that means things get better over time. But how many of the bigger grading companies, like, for example, CGC, CBCS, and even also PGX, they're not watching my videos. So even though I make a quote-unquote deal with PGX, I don't believe, unless, they're watching without commenting, I don't believe they're watching the videos as much, but they still respond to me. Daniel Patterson over PGX will answer my calls. He will call me from time to time. He listens to my responses. But again, you have an owner of the business watching the video. That says they care. And that should be important to people. It's not always about money. It should be about customer service, willing to listen to customers, and that is important. Now, of course, getting grades right and things like that are absolutely going to be important, so it doesn't matter how friendly somebody is if they're a buffoon at their job. But, because humans make mistakes, we can't go crazy if one company does it and give a pass if another company does it. We got to be fair if we want the community to be graded fairly. Now, one of the things I mentioned is, as you could see, there's a lot of space in there in between. And I mentioned the first time I got that, I thought they should put some padding. So they do put some padding in between. I hope still they will add a little bit more. So they did it on the one side over here, but with the spaces in between, because it's not the company that I'm concerned with, it's the shippers out there who will, there are times I've gone to UPS, the postal office, and I'll hand them a box that clearly says on it, do not crush, do not damage, fragile. And after I pay for it, they take it and they literally will throw it in the bin behind them. So the more protection in here, the less likely damage being caused by the shipping company will affect the grading company from having to be responsible for what they didn't do. But always keep in mind with any business, it doesn't matter if the shipping company destroys the box, unless they did it intentionally, of course, which is going to always be hard to prove. If Walmart, for example, ships a TV with no protection, and the Postal Service or UPS or FedEx damages it, it's still Walmart's responsibility, because they are responsible for making sure the item you purchased arrives the way it was purchased. So I would highly recommend more padding in here. Now, like I said, these dividers keep it from moving. But if somebody was to walk on this accidentally while they're spending another dollar or two, or maybe $5, I don't know how much it's going to cost. I would assume when you're talking bulk, just adding like stuff like this would probably cost $1 or $2. Adding that extra $1 or $2 of protection could save you hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars, of potential damages, because unfortunately postal workers, even the ones like UPS that got those raises, they're just not going to treat your packages like you would. So the more protection, the better. I will give PGX the credit that they go above and beyond with the protection, and that's why I have never in 6 years had a book damaged. Now, to be fair, I've never had an EGS package damaged either, but I've only had like 3 or 4 packages returned so far, so I haven't had enough time to see overall. So it's nothing more than what I hope would be a fair criticism, and kind of a way to foresee what could potentially happen, and doing extra just makes it better. So what they have is good. It has improved, but if they improve it a little bit more, financially it will save them money in the long run, and any business would be wise to at least consider it. So I'm going to put this where they are facing upside down. So I get the 2 books. I will tell you what I thought the grades were going to be. Now, always keep in mind, I base it on what I think it's going to be before air pressing and dry cleaning. So, you know, depending on how good or how pressable the defects are, you know, that could go up a little bit. It could not go up. So they also, and I want to show, it's a little bit harder to get this one out. There we go. That's what she said. They do mark fragile on the book, but there was one also, a divider on the bottom. I save these so that when I ship out books, I like that idea. I wish PGX would do that and CGC would do stuff like that. But, you know, it's a learning process. So it seems that they have arrived safely. So let's go over which ones, first of all, these are, because like I said, they don't have a particular order with people like myself who do the deals. So by the first comic I show, I'll basically know. So I want to cover both sides. Okay, so grade's not on this side. And Tony, if you can, if you have the ability to do it, now obviously you don't have to, but one of the things that PGX has done recently that I like is they actually put like a piece of like stick-it note over the grade so I don't accidentally reveal it. I don't know if you could ever do that for people like me that make the videos. If you ever have the chance to be able to do that with my books, I would love it. But again, it's just, you know, just asking for a silly little thing that doesn't have to be done. They did it without me asking, and I just liked it, and they do it from now on. So if you ever get the chance, that would be cool. All right, so you can see this is X-Force number 4. Okay, so this is a shipment that I sent back in November. So they did send... Okay, so there we go. So right now it's February, and again, because I'm not a paying customer, my books are not going to arrive as fast as yours would. So even though I'm mentioning when these were sent out, that does not reflect the speed of their grading from a paying customer such as yourself. So keep that in mind. All right, so without looking at the grade, I'm not going to look because I have it covered. This book was a signed book. It was signed by Rob Liefeld. How do I know that? I got this book signed back in the 90s when I went to New York Comic Con. So for me, it wasn't a matter of it being authenticated. It's a matter of if I ever sell it or somebody ever wants to buy it or I trade this book, because, you know, who knows, somebody may want it someday. They have the assurance that the signature is authentic. But I got this graded myself. So I paid a total of $4.99 for this book back in the days. When it comes to books that have pressable defects, and this one did, I usually give a range. Now, this one had a lot of pressable defects, so I gave it a little bit wider range than I normally do. So I predicted it could be anywhere from a 9.2 to a 9.8 with white pages. So let's see what the grade is. What do we got? My first 9.8. Oh, I'm sorry, 9.6. I'm perfectly fine with that. This is a book I bought. I know I didn't buy it the day it came out, although I do have other copies. But I believe when I got this signed, I didn't bring a live-filled book, so I just bought something there at the time. So I paid $4.99 for it. At least that's what I believe. It's been so long. You know, when you get my age, you don't remember everything. But for a book that I've had, and by the way, this was in the original regular bag and board since I bought it back in the early to mid-90s. And yet, 9.6. So it did have a couple of pressable defects. They were able to get them out. I'm very happy with the 9.6. They do confirm that it was signed by Rob Liefeld. There's nothing special about this book other than it's a signed book. And for $5, you know, investment, I could still, if I was to turn around and sell this, make some sort of profit. Obviously, you're not selling a book like this for $5,000. But if I spend $5 and sold it for $25, because the signature's verified, or who knows, God, maybe $30, still making a profit. So I know I'm not going to retire off this book, but that's not why I sent it in. But it's got a Spider-Man crossover, X-Force flip up, so you could see this is what the book was supposed to be looking like as a side panel. So 9.6, obviously, would I love a 9.8? Sure. Does it deserve a 9.8? Not according to them. I am perfectly fine with that. It's not going to be resubmitted. I am very happy with a 9.6, especially at $4.99 for a signed book. All right, so last but not least, and by the way, we have a lot of people commenting, so thank you for that. Another perk about being in the live chat is at the end of the video, if you are so inclined to stick around, I do a surprise subscriber shout out where there are, you know, let's face it, some minor benefits of being in there. Obviously, you're not going to win the lottery with me, but I try and do something for my fans. And of the 15 people watching, 6 people have hit the like button, so thank you for that. Make sure you, if you can, share the link to my videos about, or let people know about my auction, because it definitely helps. All right, so this should be Civil War number 2, okay? Civil War number 2. This is another signed book. I'm going to, without looking at the grade, or was this a signed book? Yes. Okay. So it does have, I'm not seeing the yellow label, but then I remembered, they always do it where one of the labels is their regular label. That's why you saw the yellow label in the signature. And when I didn't see the yellow, I forgot for a second that I always make sure I get one of their custom labels. Now, full disclosure with me, I've never hidden it. I'm not a huge fan of any grading companies' labels, custom labels. I just don't want to spend extra money for frills. But that's my opinion, so it's not a negative thing on any company. I just don't want to spend money on frills for what is really supposed to be to preserve the book. But the reason I get them is not because of my opinion, but to give you a chance to make your own opinion whether you want to do it or not. So these books with the labels are not for me. It is for you guys. So if you see the label and you say, wow, that's something I want to add, then you have that ability. If I just went by what I want, then this isn't really a review. It's just me just showing off. So I've told Tony specifically that even though the custom labels are not my thing, I don't even, you know, like I said, I don't like any of them. I don't like CGCs either. If they did them for free, great. But to spend $5 for a picture of Wolverine, okay. To me, that doesn't increase the value of the book at all. It's just window dressings. But that doesn't mean people don't like it. So I want people to have the opportunity to see it. So I make sure Tony does at least one custom label so people have the opportunity to say whether they want to add that to their order or not. So that's more important to me than what my opinion is. That's why this channel is We Love Comics, not I Love Comics. So I paid $80 for this book. I did not get it signed myself. I bought this signed. It is what I believe to be the Aspen variant. I predicted this one because it was in a little bit better quality. Predicted between a 9.4 and a 9.8 with white pages, which, by the way, the X-Force had white pages. That's not shocking to me. So this one, well, I'm sure will have white pages too, so that will not be a shock to me. The reason I always say 9.4 to 9.8 is even if you buy a book directly right off the shelf the day it first was produced, that does not guarantee that just because that book is brand new on the shelf that you're going to get a 9.8 grade. Because if you've ever seen people at a comic book store, what do? They all thumb through the comics looking for the best grade, which means they could bend a corner on one of them, or they could be rubbing against each other and have a color rub, or they could get damaged in shipment. So I always find it astonishing how many people assume that just because a book is new or newer, that it automatically deserves a 9.8. Now, of course, it could get it. It could even get a 9.9 or a 10, depending on the book and depending on, what type of paper they use. Because, if you have a metal variant, you can get a 10 easily on some of those. Or if you have a comic that has, like, the cardboardish kind of covers, like, for example, Batman Damned, I have 2 10s of Batman 10 number 2. So, I always give a range, because especially if a book is in higher grade, I'm not going to open it and risk the chance of damaging it just to see if page 32 had a stain or something. But always keep in mind, there could be something that is on page 32 that you didn't notice that could keep a 9.8 from being a 9.8. So there are no guarantees, but that's why I do the range. So I said between a 9.4 to 9.8, paid $80. It is signed by Michael Turner, so I had them do the verification. I have made you wait long enough. The grade is... And we got a second 9.6. So again, I'm perfectly fine with that. This actually has a couple of signatures on it. It was signed by Michael Turner and Peter, is it Steigerwald? I'm not familiar with that person, so forgive me on that. But it was dual signed, so they did verify it. Let's see. Mark Miller Story, Steve McNiven, and let me just see, Michael Turner cover. Okay, so they did, and I like this actually because no one else does this. Even PGX doesn't do it. Even CGC doesn't do that. They wrote it as a 1-in-20 ratio variant. I've never seen a grading company actually put the ratio. Like most people would say it's the Aspen variant, like I said. I think, and I hope they continue to do this, that is a good idea. All grading companies, if there is, for example, a 1-in-500 variant or a 1-in-10 variant or a 1-in-50 variant, they should actually indicate that on the label, because it just gives more information about a book that somebody else may not have known about. Like, I knew this was the Aspen variant, but I didn't know it was a 1-in-20. Now, if that's incorrect, then that would need to be changed, because, again, mistakes can be made. But to have that on the cover, I think, is a very good idea. So, Tony is right now in the live chat. If anybody wants to ask him questions, please do. I always say put things in capital letters, and you could put it attention to Tony, or just write at EGS. And I'm sure he'll be kind enough to answer. But I'm going to end the video soon, so if you're going to ask him a question, please do. Or if Tony, if you want to make any statements about even what I just said, please do. I'm sure people would want to hear about the owner of the company and what their plans are or what they're doing. But I'm going to tell you right now, this is the first time I've ever seen on any grading company put the actual number of the ratio for the variant. Now, I would have put the 1-in-20 ratio Aspen variant. I would have gone a little bit further with that. But again, that's just me nitpicking. But I like the fact that they did that. So, I hope that is a regular thing from now on, Tony. If you have any ratio variants, to mention what the ratio is. And I'm going to actually mention that at some point to Daniel at PGX and see if they can do it as well. I'm not even going to attempt to try and contact CBCS or CGC because they'll just never respond. But if anybody else that might have better connections with them want to mention it, I think that would be great for the community, because the more information, the better. So let me read, because I also forgot to mention, well, I did mention it, but I didn't do it. Like I said, they don't put the greatest notes on the back of the slab. That was my idea with PGX. I hope EGS does this as well at some point. Like I said, it costs them money to print it out and do the ink. But it might be less money to put it on the back than to have to buy this paper, put these stickers and all this other stuff. So if you think financially, you could charge people if you wanted to, or you could do it for free, but you can charge them. PGX, does charge $5 to put the greatest notes on the back of the slab. But I like the fact that the reason it's better on the back of the slab, in my opinion, is it can't get lost. This could potentially slide out, or somebody could just take it and not care about it and throw it out, and that would prevent somebody from having that information right there when they need it. So I hope, again, all companies would do that and put the information, because if you're spending money to get a book graded with any company, shouldn't you have the ability to know why your book was graded a certain way? Now, of course, all of the companies, you can email them for the grades. But instead of having to go through that and waiting for a response, and sometimes they do not respond, or sometimes they say they do not have graders' notes, it would be easier if all the companies just put all of the information on the back of the slab. Because if you look at this, I have to be honest. To me, this back is just, it's not aesthetically pleasing. It's just brown and gold. And there's so much room to put information. And, I know they're a newer company, but to have all these zeros here that are basically not really necessary, not yet anyway, if you put this as a white background, and again, this is just my opinion. They do not have to listen. It's their company. So, but I'm sure he appreciates my giving of advice. Anybody can give advice. It doesn't mean the person has to take it or has to agree with it. But if they made this white colored and put the greatest notes either as an option or as instead of spending money on this card, you put it on the back of the slab, it's just going to make it less likely to be lost. It's going to overall, I'm sure, be cheaper, because you're basically just taking this label that you're printing out, flipping it over and printing more stuff on it. So you have the printer to do it. I think the consumer would appreciate that for all companies. Now, I could be wrong, and this could be just me talking. So if anybody that actually watched to this long, first of all, congratulations. Second of all, put in the comment section that you're a power viewer. And third of all, let me know what you think about my opinion on this is. Do you agree that putting all companies should have them on the back of the slabs? Give your reasons, because I can't speak for any other company, but Tony, I'm sure, will read the comments, and because they're a newer company, I'm sure they're going to listen more. I think Daniel Patterson of PGX is the same way. I think CGC and CBCS are just too high up there that they really don't care about people as much as they claim, because if they did, there would be more interactions. Now, I understand smaller companies, the mom and pop store is going to be having the owners at the mom and pop store greeting the customer. Somebody that owns Walmart is not going to go in a random store of theirs and, take somebody's order. So we do have to keep it in perspective, because a smaller company has to do and go above and beyond to get customers. But there are many small businesses where you'll never see the owner. I've worked at many bars over the years being a DJ, karaoke DJ and DJ, where I never even knew who the owner was because they never came there. So there are small businesses that don't do that as well. So it's not like just because you have a small business, you have to be there. There are many that don't. So I praise the companies that go above and beyond to try and do their best. Now, that doesn't keep them immune from making mistakes or having something wrong happen, because like what happened with CGC, this could be cracked open. So I hope if Tony or Daniel at PGX or any of the other companies want to know my ideas of how to make it much more difficult for somebody to crack a slab open, and at a minimal extra cost, obviously, which you can, pass on to the consumer, because that's how companies work. You know, when somebody like UPS asks for raises of, I think, like $50 an hour or whatever, or between $20 and $50 an hour, you know, the company is going to raise shipping costs. That's just how it works. There's a reason why you cannot find a dollar item on McDonald's dollar menu anymore, because they gave such big raises. They raised the price of everything. People don't know how economies work, which is kind of sad. But these things have to be considered, because, yes, I know a company might say, well, I'm just selling a product. What somebody else does criminally or wrongfully, I have no concern over. It still is the reputation. Like, for example, CGC has taken a hit for what's currently continually going on with them. Now, they could turn around and say, well, you know, we're not responsible for what a third party does with our merchandise, which is technically true, but that doesn't mean that CGC or another company will be affected by it, and that could ultimately lose customers, which ultimately loses value and loses money. So the idea is not always to think about things in a certain level. Think about cause and effect and things that go down the line. Because if anybody that watches my channel knows about me, I always talk about scenarios in the future, preparing for things that are coming, not things that are or things that have been, because you can't change what's been unless you have a time machine. You can change what's going on now, but most people don't, because they live in the moment. And most people do not prepare for the future, which means sometimes preparing for what could happen that may not favor you or your business or your personality or your channel or your life. You know, it's the person that stores batteries in their house, not because they're afraid of a storm, but knows that one day a storm might come, or the electricity might just go out, and not being the one that has to try and find batteries the day of a power outage and already has it. So that's what I think about. So when it comes to CBCS, PGX, and EGS, there is no major controversy, as far as I know of people cracking open their slabs and changing them for books. And as of now, they do not have the controversy of employees of their service taking out books and basically stealing people's books and switching them. But that doesn't mean that cannot happen. So if you prepare for those situations, you can minimize the reputation being destroyed, because it can destroy a business. Now, unfortunately with CGC, many people are giving them passes because they can, let's be honest, make the most money. That's primarily the reason, not the only reason, why people send them to CGC. Now, whether I agree with that or not is nothing more than my opinion. Same with you, whether you agree with it or not. So what I would recommend to Tony at EGS, to Daniel Patterson over at PGX, I don't know the owner of CBCS, but I think all of them, and whoever the owner is of Halo, or any grading company that might want to decide to come in and play in this game, because variety is key. How many people want one car company? You know, I see people all the time saying, you know, we should have only one grading company. We shouldn't have a whole bunch of grading companies. Well, we have a whole bunch of different cars, different car manufacturers. We have a whole bunch of different places you can go to eat. Just imagine if the only place to eat was McDonald's and nothing else existed. First of all, McDonald's would be able to charge anything they want. They wouldn't have to worry about quality of service and product, because who are you going to go to if they're the only option? So there would be less accountability. But what I'm saying is, any company that's here should see what CGC had happened to them and say, what would happen if that same scenario happened to my business? Which it absolutely could. Because if somebody could figure out how to take a glue gun to separate these things without showing any cracks and take out the book and replace it, or replace the label, that may not be the responsibility of the company that made this label, but that doesn't mean it's not going to ruin their reputation. So I think people have to think differently when it comes to, oh, well, you know, that's not my problem. Well, you know, if a person decides to drive drunk, even if they did not know, because I doubt anybody that ever drove drunk says, you know what, I want to hit somebody tonight, or I want to kill somebody tonight. But if, God forbid, it happens, even though they didn't intend on it happening, even though they weren't planning on it happening, if it happens, they are going to pay the price for it. So, Tony, since you're here, and this is your video about your company right now, I could understand, and I don't know that this is how you'd respond, because we've never talked about this, but I could understand if you said, well, my job is just to grade the books, you know, what somebody else does is not my concern. You have every right to say that, and you'd actually be right. But if somebody was to take one of your slabs, criminally steal a book out of it and switch it, which is wrong, but you can't stop criminals from doing wrong things, unfortunately, for the most part, especially these days, when you allow them to do things. If enough people started doing this, what do you think it will do to the reputation of your business? And what would that do to the amount of new business you get, and how much old business will be taken away, how that will affect your financial bottom line? So I'm only saying that to you because you're here listening right now, and this is about your company. What I'm suggesting is, and if you ever want to know my information, because I mentioned it on somebody else's channel, but pretty much nobody ever listens to me. I've been right lots of times. Now, it doesn't mean I'm always right, but I have a way that somebody could make these a lot more tamper resistant, and it wouldn't increase the cost by too much. Obviously, if you're going to make improvements to anything, it's going to cost. But the cost of losing the reputation of a business, which could ultimately destroy a business, is going to be a lot higher than the extra few pennies or a few dollars it would be to say, hey, we understand what happened with another company. It hasn't happened to us, but we are going to put such and such measures to make sure it does not happen with our business. That would actually make your company get more people to get your business. Would actually say, you know what? I like that frame of thinking, that they're preparing for something that hasn't happened yet. That's why people have smoke alarms in their house. People don't buy smoke alarms saying, I can't wait for my house to burn down and be alerted. They buy it just in case it happens. Many people have bought car insurance and never had an accident. But just imagine if you had an accident and never bought insurance. What do you think happens? Unfortunately, many people in this world think about cost, but they don't think about what the cost of what they do or what they don't do, how that can affect them in the future. And I think many people need to think about that. Now, obviously, no company has to make any improvement. Every company can say, it is the way it is. If some criminal wants to do criminal acts, we can't control it. The customer, the person that makes a business stay in business, if they don't agree with what any company is doing, they will go elsewhere. So if another company was going to come along and do what the other companies won't do, who's to say everybody doesn't now go to that company and give them their money? These are things that all companies should think about. And, you know, I've never worked for a big business. You know, I don't even have a college degree. I went to college for about one semester and took mushrooms most of the time and drank a lot. And I did it to escape a alcoholic, basically almost what I thought would be a killer of human beings from my mother's choice of dating when my parents got divorced. So I basically used my college as an escape route. So I'm basing all this on just seeing how the world works. You know, in a perfect world, we'd all love to walk down the street taking rose petals and throwing them around and saying how wonderful it is as walking on rainbows and seeing sunshine all the time. Life isn't that way. You know, there's a reason why you have homeowners insurance. It's not to expect a disaster. It's being prepared for one if it happens. You know, it's not being paranoid. You know, when you go camping, you make sure, if you're going into the wilderness, you bring extra food, you bring extra batteries, things like that. Not because you're scared, you're prepared. There's a big difference. So when it comes to businesses, I can understand where a business says it's not my responsibility to do this, that, and the other thing because that's out of the realm of my capability or belief system or whatever have you. But the more options you give for a consumer, the more likely they are going to not only use you, but continue to use you. And that's where a business gets its success from, not good, great reputations or mediocre reputations. It is, what can you offer me that no one else does? Before I used to shave my head, which I'm actually due to do, and yes, I did say do, I used to have, like, literally Shirley Temple curls. Believe it or not, there was a time I actually had hair on my head. But I had, like, when I was in college, when people saw me from behind, they thought I was an albino. Because I had, like, literally, like, Jerry curl curls, where you could pull them and it would bounce right back. Why am I saying this? Because even though there are many haircutting places out there, and there were a dime a dozen, not every haircutting person could cut curly hair correctly. So even though there were numerous amount of choices, I went with the ones who did what it was that I was looking for. And that's where I think many businesses fail to see that the business is not in charge. A government is not in charge. The people are in charge, because they make the decision whether they want to give their hard-earned currency to a business or not. And if somebody is only going to give bare minimum, the customer has the right to go somewhere else. So I hope all grading companies will see that they are not above us. Because if we continue to give them money for mediocrity, it gives them no desire to do the right thing or to improve what they have. But we at any moment can say, we're not giving you a dime. There have been many big companies throughout the history of this country alone that have gone out of business because eventually even Rome falls. The problem is many people, like, for example, CGC and CBCS, they get to a certain level where they think, well, we don't need the people anymore. We don't care. We're just going to do whatever we want and just avoid accusations and not give the full disclosure, and we'll give just a bare minimum weeks later when people are just not going away. If all of a sudden everybody said, I'm not putting a dime into their company, they'll either go out of business or they'll change their business. So the other companies that have situations where they can take advantage of that situation, or at least improve their reputation by fixing something before it's broken, I think is a wise investment for the long-term stability of any business. But I'm just a YouTuber that has 22 people watching, where half the people are kind enough to like it. So if anybody wants to listen to my advice, that's awesome. Nobody has to. Just because I say it doesn't mean it's gospel and doesn't mean it's right. I don't own my own businesses. Well, technically I do, because now my business is to sell comics. And I'm very happy with staying at home now. I don't miss working, even DJing anymore. Not having to inhale cigarette smoke, because that's the one bad thing about Florida. They allow smoking in bars. And when you're an asthmatic like me and breathing problems all your life, cigarette smoke for 4 or 5 hours, because, there's also half-hour setup and breakdown time, just not good for me. But I've always made sure, like, the reason why I can do my auctions and have people send me cash through the mail or send me money orders and repeatedly buy from me is because I will go above and beyond to be both fair, I will be corrective if there's a mistake, apologetic. But, for example, if anybody, and they can put it in the comment section if they're live, or the comment section when it's later on that's purchased from me, I make my packages bomb-proof. I make it knowing that a UPS, a FedEx person, a postal worker is not going to treat the package the way they should. And I have to prepare for that accordingly and make sure that if they throw the box or it falls down off the shelf or they put 500 heavy boxes on top of it, it's not going to destroy what's inside. So I will put the extra effort into the packaging even when I technically don't have to. Doing the bare minimum sets a bad precedent for any company. And I'm not suggesting anyone here or any company is doing that. I'm just trying to warn people to think on a different level. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So thank you for watching. I want to thank Tony for being in the live chat. Hopefully he will maybe take one or two bits of the information I come up with and maybe think, it's time to up the game, even though they don't have to. If you're a baseball player and you're happy batting 250 and you could stay in the major leagues for 20 years batting 250, that's great. But there are players that will want to bat 350 and will spend hours at the gym, and they will spend hours at home watching the reviews and plays and going over the things that they made to improve themselves, are the ones that become legends. The Babe Ruths of the world, the what other sports? The Joe Montanas of the world, the Wayne Gretzkys of the world, the Michael Jordans of the world, the ones that didn't want to just be basic and be average and wanted to be the best. Those are the ones that stand out throughout time. And I hope with any company, the more companies, the better, because that creates competition, it creates choice, and it makes companies have to be more receptible to criticisms and improvements and quality control. Because as they say, variety is the spice of life. So if anybody out there says there should only be one grading company, I ask you, should there also be only one car manufacturer? Isn't it good to have choice? Because that's what creates competition. That's what creates quality. And that's why, with situations like what's going on with CGC, is a concern for most people. The ones that are either in bed with CGC or profit heavily on CGC and choose to look the other way, they're not helping CGC gain a trustful reputation of people thinking that, okay, maybe they do have 3 professional graders grade every single book from cover to cover. That doesn't seem like the case. If they can actually have employees trade books and literally steal from people, something wrong is happening in the process. And it always goes from the top down. If they were the only company, just imagine how many people would just say, I'll never grade a comic again. So they're not helping themselves. And the other companies, and I'll include Halo in this as well, they should sit there and say, what can we do to never have what happened to CGC ever happen to us? Now, they don't have to do it, and they have every right to say, I don't want to do anything. But if they do, they're telling the audience, look, I'm willing to go above and beyond, even though it has not happened with my company. Won't you give us a try? How many more people out there will say, you know what? I will give them a try. Because they're at least attempting to do something to fix a problem that they did not even have. That could bring a lot of customers, which means a lot of business, which means a lot of money, which means a lot of upgrades, a lot of improvements, and a lot of reward. Because remember, in life, you get what you give. So if you give the minimum, don't be surprised you get the minimum. There are many sports athletes out there that are always going to be fine with being just good enough. You're not going to save their baseball cards or their football cards or their hockey cards or their basketball cards. You're not going to go to their Hall of Fame visit. You're not going to remember their names. So all companies should strive to be the Michael Jordan of their company, which means they don't have to go above and beyond, but they'll always be remembered if they do choose to do so. So what are your thoughts? Thank you to the 18 people that were watching. I don't get a lot of viewers, but I'll take quality over quantity. Thank you to the 11 people that were kind enough to hit the like button. And let's do today's surprise subscriber shoutouts. We're going to go with SP Comics. And we're going to go with, give me a second. I want to scroll back a little bit. So for the viewers that watch for 2 minutes, they'll probably never see it. We're going to go with Giuseppe Enya, because I don't think I've ever seen him on here before, or her. I don't want to assume that Just because that has a male name doesn't mean that somebody's wife or girlfriend or sister or daughter is watching on their channel. Even though 100% of my viewers are male, it's probably a male. You guys are today's surprise subscriber shoutouts. What does that mean? Well, number one, it means you don't have to be a subscriber to get it. You just have to be in the live chat. So if you want to hit subscribe, awesome. But if you have a YouTube channel, you could post a link in the comment section once this video uploads to either a specific video you do or your channel itself. I'll leave that up to you. If you do not have a YouTube channel, or you'd prefer to post a link to one of your social networks like Instagram or, God forbid, TikTok. I've never been on it, but, you know, there are people. Or whatever place, you could do a link to that instead. If you don't have that, or you'd rather do a link to something you sell on Amazon or eBay, or even on your own Instagram sale, which would be actually your social network, so you could do both, kill two birds with one stone. It does not have to be comic book related. It just has to be kid friendly. So you could be selling shoes. You could be selling not adult videotapes, but you could be selling videotapes like, for example, Back to the Future. Clothing, as long as it's not like adult clothing. In other words, as long as it's kid-friendly, I will help share and promote it, because that's what real community is about, helping one another, not hindering or not hiding. So keep in mind, anyone that will post the link, because I've had many people, and I do surprise subscriber shoutouts, I've had many other people that are troll accounts or spam accounts trying to post and take advantage of what I gave other people the opportunity to do, and they'll post links like to porn sites or, you know, to some sales scam or something. So anybody that clicks a link on my video on the comment section, even if they were picked, it will automatically go to spam, because I have to check it and verify first, because I don't want ever to have my viewers click on a link and it take them somewhere they did not want to be, and especially if it's somewhere inappropriate. So it means if you see a link in the comment section, it means it has been verified by me to be accurate and will take you where it says it's going to go. So click on the links, subscribe to their channels if they make videos, check out what they have on their Instagram accounts or whatever social network. Maybe check and see what they have for sale, because at the very least you might be able to help promote it for them. Kindness in the world is a thing that's lacking these days, and definitely something needed. Now, that doesn't make everybody perfect, doesn't make everybody evil. It just, you know, you get what you give. So let's give some positivity. So don't forget, I'm doing my live auction this Sunday. It's at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Check the video I did a couple of days ago showing the sneak preview. 4 of the books have already been sold. That's the advantages of watching my videos, being a power viewer. If you see a book before the auction and you want to make an offer, if I accept it, you can get it before the auction, so you don't have to worry about potentially being outbid or potentially have somebody else come along and say, I'll buy it before the auction. So the 4 books, again, that have already been sold before the auction began is Blondie #1, Amazing Spider-Man #194, Hulk 180, and Fantastic Four issue #2. They are no longer on the table, but the rest are. If you see one before the auction, please contact me at peacefulfeelings@yahoo.com and make an offer. If I accept it, that book will be yours, whether you pay for it right away or you do the 4-month payment plan. If it's $599 or more, I'll leave that to you to decide. Thanks to Tony and EGS for not only being here, but allowing me this opportunity. It's always a pleasure to have you in the chat and have you in our conversations. I would love to hear all of the viewers, what you thought about these grades and what you thought about the slabs. And if you've had experience with them, good, bad, or indifferent, please mention it, but always be respectful. You know, mistakes can happen, problems can happen. It's what a company or a person does with those problems that really dictates what type of person or business they are. So always keep that in mind. Let's keep it fair. Fair and balanced is what we need. Thanks for watching. Give our shout-outs a shout-out. If you're a power viewer, put it in the comment section. And don't forget also, it is not you. It is not I. It is We Love Comics. I have my AI art. I'd love to hear your comments about them, whether you like them or not. Doesn't matter. You can share the thoughts on them. And if you see on the bottom of the screen, a bunch of comics I'm looking to try and acquire via trade. If you know anyone, or you are one of the people that has an extra one of the books on the screen scrolling by on the bottom, I have a video I made back in November of last year of about 30 to 35 graded comics that I graded myself that were purchased raw, so you don't have to worry about any switcheroos, that I'm willing to trade. If it takes all 30 to get one of the books, as long as if it's a fair trade, I will absolutely I will absolutely do it. I want to show my viewers that opportunities are out there, and it doesn't always have to be done by money alone. So if you have one of those books or know somebody that has one of those books and wants to do a trade, please contact me at peacefulfeelings@yahoo.com, and let's get that going. So thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate your viewership. I might do another video. I'll most likely do another video before Sunday, but if not, I will absolutely be there here Sunday for the live auction. Hopefully you will too, and hopefully you'll share it and let other people know, because it does help my family help to pay bills, and keeps my wife from getting gray hairs, which, by the way, her birthday is today, so she's not watching right now, but much love to you, babe, and happy birthday, and I'm glad I'm spending the day with you, and don't forget to have your troll spayed or neutered.